Hello there. At this time of year, I like to look at a lot of different best books of the year lists, as you may have noticed from my recent videos. I also like to follow a lot of different book prizes, all in order to understand some of the publishing highlights of the year. But I think there are a lot of books which kind of slip between the cracks, which are really great, really special in their own way, but which aren't often talked about as much. And certainly they do have readers and fans and people who have been discussing them online, but I haven't seen any of these particular titles which I've read and really enjoyed on any of these prize lists or on any of these best books of the year lists. And so I just want to take a few moments to highlight some of these books. And I'm sure there are a lot of books like this. So if you have some titles which you've read in the past year which you think deserve more attention, please let me know about that in the comments below. But yeah, I'm just going to go through 6 books which I think have this potential of just falling between the cracks. So first off, there's a novel, a debut novel from the very beginning of this year called Tides by Sara Freeman. This is quite a melancholy novel in a lot of ways. The premise of it is about a woman who has walked out on her life. She travels to this seaside town which is in an off season, like it's not during the summertime when the town usually comes alive and is really busy. It's during the winter when there are only the round year residents who are there, which aren't all that many, and so it's quite a sleepy time for this town. And it spends time with her as she sifts through her memories and her past and just existing in this space. And she doesn't go to this town necessarily to create a new life for herself, but in order to understand the narrative that she's created about her own life and what is true, what she really wants in life. And so I always find this question of people who walk out on their lives really interesting, because we all have this impulse, don't we, now and then, no matter how good our lives that we build for ourselves, or how much we love the people around us or our job or the things we have the urge every once in a while to just walk away. And I find this compulsion really interesting to explore and inquire, and that's what this novel does so meaningfully. And I just really enjoyed the atmosphere of it, how it explores her past, not so much necessarily the tragic things which occurred in her personal history, and there are a number of these things which come up and are revealed over the course of the novel, but yeah, just more the method of how she has constructed an understanding of her own past and her own desires which haven't been met or which have been met and which have been confused because of events and misfortunes and all of that. And so yeah, I think this is a really interesting novel which isn't showy in any way. It's much more low-key and, like I said, has a very melancholy tone to it, but which I found very meaningful. The Perfect Golden Circle by Benjamin Myers. This is a novel about 2 men who are quite different from each other in some ways. They're not even necessarily strong friends, although they have this kinship that they form through their shared mission to embark on this artistic project of creating these crop circles in different areas of rural England. And it's a kind of artistic endeavor that they have to endow the landscape around them with meaning and imbue a sense of mystery into the world, which they feel has been lost somewhat. And so they do this in secret in the cover of night. They pick these very remote locations locations, and then they create these specific patterns, which doesn't harm the crop, but which just creates this design within these fields, which are then discovered, and then it becomes this national curiosity, and the public have all sorts of different interpretations of what these circles means and how they were formed, and they leave this question open-ended. And as the novel explores each of their pasts in an interesting way, you come to understand how they've come to this position, as well as through the people that they encounter in these nighttime jobs of creating these circles. They encounter a number of different people from the English countryside, and so you get this picture of the society and nation from a very unique point of view, which I haven't come across before. And Benjamin Meyer's writing is so beautiful, especially the way he captures the natural world and talks about his characters, a different kind of psychology and different way of viewing the world, I think is really special. The Family Chao by Samantha Chang. This is a mystery novel about a death of a patriarch and the question of how he died, if somebody killed him or not, and if somebody in his own family killed him. But it's a fictional modern-day retelling of Dostoevsky's The Brothers Karamazov, because it follows three different sons in this Chinese-American family who have become a fixture of their local community through their Chinese restaurant, but their father is a very overbearing figure, quite difficult to say the least, and so what happens to him over one dramatic evening, and then the fallout of that as the brothers, who are quite different from each other, have their own interpretations and different consequences of the fallout of this big event, and gradually mysteries are revealed about this family and their ambitions in life, but also it shows the public's reaction to this family and how different hidden prejudice and resentment against them sort of boils to the surface after the dramatic events of this fateful evening. And so it's a really interesting examination of contemporary America and in contemporary American family, but it does also function like a modern day mystery in a way which is really intriguing, and which is why I included it in my little book of 50 books to read if you're an armchair detectives, which includes all different mysteries from classic Agatha Christie to modern day books like this. And I think it is the most recent publication that I included in this book. Then there is the short story collection Terminal Zones by Gareth E. Rees. This is a group of tales which combines existential angst about the climate crisis with psychologically complex portraits of characters caught up in very tense or even horrific situations. So some of these characters are experiencing environmental issues firsthand with the loss of their home or the countryside around them. Other characters have such a skewed point of view that it's affecting their livelihoods, their family lives, the way that they interact with their colleagues and the people in their community, and how he follows through with these characters' points of view is so riveting that I was just gripped reading so many of these tales, and it gives such a unique and different point of view of England in general. A lot of these stories are set in different rural parts of or regional parts of the country, which aren't often represented in fiction. And this author also runs a website called Unofficial Britain, which is a collection of paraphernalia from around the country, little pieces which give clues and insights into lives which aren't part of the mainstream narrative of society. And so I think it's such a unique collection. There's the nonfiction book, The Golden Mole and Other Living Treasures by Katherine Rundell, which is an account of a number of different animals. Some of them are exotic, some of them are more commonplace, but which highlights characteristics of them, which are so wild that we can kind of forget how incredible these creatures actually are. So if you're somebody like me who likes to watch a lot of nature programs to give an insight into the natural world, which you don't have in your everyday life, this book also gives that kind of equivalent in the way Katherine Rundell shows different aspects of their characteristics, but also gives a historical context for them and how these animals have been interpreted and understood by society over time. Some of them have become symbols of certain things, others sort of superstitions have grown around these different creatures, but she takes us back to the reality of their lives and how they're in danger for a number of different reasons to do with the climate crisis, but also human intervention and the way that humans have been abusing and using these animals over time. And also it is just such a beautiful book that this collection is kind of a treasure in itself. It has these beautiful gold pages and then these wonderful illustrations of the different creatures it portrays, like the swift there. And I like how the author herself enters into the narrative, like only very occasionally, but she sometimes slips in her own personal experience into this, and why these animals are so special and important, and why taking the time to acknowledge that is so meaningful. And finally, I want to mention the memoir Cells by Gavin Mcrae. Mcrae is a novelist who's produced two absolutely fascinating novels, and this memoir is kind of an unexpected occurrence for him. He wrote it during lockdown when he found himself unexpectedly confined in very close quarters with his mother in Ireland. So this is the country he was born and raised in, but which he moved away from a long time ago and never really wanted to return to. But through a series of happenstances and events, he found himself back here with his mother, who is steadily losing her memory, who is showing signs of dementia, and during this time of intense confinement with her, he re-examines his past and choices both he and his mother made over their lifetime, and how this has affected his decisions and point of view about life. And he draws upon different psychological systems of thought, as well as different artworks as a sort of filter through which to understand this experience, but also through his own reasoning and meditations of how he came to this point, and reckoning with the family and people from his past, which have led him to this point. It's a very poignant and moving account, which interrogates his family and his country, but also himself and the choices he makes and his own motivations. There is a lot of heartache and tragedy in this book, but there's also a lot of tenderness and love which is shown, and how he balances all of that, I think, is really masterful, and it is so beautifully written that I found it incredibly moving to read. So those are the books I want to discuss and talk about. I'd love to know if you read any of these books and if you feel the same as me, that they are titles which deserve to be highlighted this year. Or if you're interested in reading any of them now, please let me know about that below. But also any other books which you think deserve special attention, let me know about them. I'd love to hear that. But I hope you're doing well and reading good things, and I'll speak to you again soon. Bye-bye.